Where do you find the best cash buyers and how do you find them? So in today's video, I'm going to show you how we find where end buyers are actually buying properties using two different softwares. So the first one is our main dispositions tool, which is Investor Lift. And then we're also going to show you how we use Privy to find exactly where cash buyers have bought properties, how much they bought them for, and then what they sold them for and how long they own them. This is extremely beneficial when you're doing dispositions, but it can also be beneficial when you're doing acquisitions. A lead comes in, it's in an area that you're not familiar with. You want to know, hey, do I have cash buyers? Now, a lot of times what we talk about and we use Privy for is for pulling comps, which is important. You need to know what the after repair value is. You need to know what properties are going for, and you still need to underwrite the deal. But that being said, there's a lot of power in knowing, is there investor activity going on in the market? How many deals are being bought by investors? How many fix and flips are going on? And what are they buying those fix and flips for? So that being said, I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to bring up Investor Lift first. So this is my Investor Lift account. I am under the buyers tab right here. So what I'm going to do is I've picked a random deal that we have recently wholesaled. It's made it to the closing table, and it was in a location that, quite frankly, if I just said the city and state, I wouldn't know where it was located. That is Cahokia, Illinois. So we type in Cahokia, Illinois pops up. We filter the buyers. Boom. We have 24 buyers in the area. Now, that being said, Thomas, he's a hell of a buyer. He's got a buyer score of 368,802. The dude buys properties. He's a good cash buyer. Now, in order for YouTube not to take this video down, all I'm doing right now is I'm clicking on his name. Unfortunately, when I click on his name, it immediately shows his phone number. So I've scrolled up, so it's not showing any private information. Don't take this down, YouTube. Bring back my screen. Here we go. Now I'm on under his profile. I'm going to go to Flips History. This is going to show all the properties that Investor Lift knows that he has bought and flipped in his career. Okay, under his phone number, his email, his entity names. Looks like he's done about 294 properties. The guy is crazy. All right. So I'm going to zoom in here to Cahokia, which is just across the state line of Missouri and Illinois. So it actually wasn't as rural as we thought it was going to be, but still, I didn't know where Cahokia was. And when you're doing lead generation and you get a lead in the city, sometimes you go, man, this is crazy rural. All right, so Cahokia, Illinois. It's this little portion right here. So you see, he's bought two properties there. So we click on the first one. Shows a sales price of $39,000. We can scroll down and we can see it was 113 St. Thomas Lane, Cahokia, Illinois. He bought this on May 18th, 2023, sold it October 5th, 2023. So he owned it for 140 days. He bought it for $20,000 and he sold it for $39,000. And you're like, that doesn't make sense. All right. Could have been a wholesale. It's what it feels like. Now let's click on the next one. This is 1407 Camp Jackson Road in Cahokia. He bought this on June 2nd, 2023, sold it January 3rd, 2024, held it for 215 days. He bought it for $24,000 and he sold it for $44,000. So what this tells us right here is this one buyer bought two properties in Cahokia, very small little town, okay? One for $20,000, one for $24,000. Based off of the sales price, these feel like these were wholesales, not full flips. So going into this conversation, if you were to call Thomas, you would say, hey, Thomas, I've got a property under contract there in Cahokia, Illinois, and I saw that looks like you wholesale a couple of properties there in 2023, early 2024. Looks like you buy them somewhere in the low 20s. I'm looking at dispo a deal here for $20,000. Would you be interested? Because I think you can probably wholesale this for insert what you think the as-is comps are for. So you still need to have that knowledge of after repair value or the as-is comps. What are properties going for in the area on the MLS that are distressed? In this case, it looks like he is perfectly fine with buying a property for $20,000 and then wholesaling it for $40,000. Now, this is powerful information, but it's just looking at one individual buyer. Now, for the sake of time on this video, because I want this to be short and condensed so you understand how we're building a bridge to understand where our end buyers buy, I'm now going to transition to Privy and show you how we get a similar story built for us on where we need to be acquiring properties and where we need to be setting our dispositions price. Okay, so now let's go to Privy. So I'm just on the map. I haven't typed anything in it showing the entire United States, and obviously it's just chock full of blue dots where deals are being done all over the United States. So I'm going to search Cahokia, Illinois. And it's going to, there's all the fix and flips that have gone on here in the area. Now, the property that we sold was right here in this little triangle. We sold the property on St. Dorothy. Okay, so I zoom in and it gives us some examples. Now, what I'm going to notice here is the prices that you're seeing. Those are the prices of what the property sold for when the property was already flipped. Okay, so I'm going to go down here. I'm going to click on this 115 St. Martin Drive. Okay, so it sold for $115,000. It's a 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot. That's important because you need to know, hey, what's the size? Now, I will say the majority of these properties are going to be pretty similar, all right, because it's such a close area to our subject property. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. So you see here, this property was purchased March 7th, 2024, flipped, and then sold July 24th, 2024. You keep scrolling down, you'll see the investor bought this property for $23,000, fixed it up, and then sold it for $115,000. Construction took 138 days. It was on the market for 1 day. So the entire hold time here was 139 days. Now, of course, you had the time before closing. So it probably ended up being about 160 to 170 days that they held this property. More importantly, what you're finding out here is the price in which a flip investor was willing to pay for this property, which was $23,000. Now, you could come down here to the assessor records and you could see who was the buyer of this property. But I'm going to click out of this. I'm going to go back to our map. I'm going to click on this other $115,000 property. So remember, the first flip investor bought that property for $23,000. The next one, 2-bed, 1-bath, 924 square. So significantly smaller property. Now, we don't know the full story because we don't know the repairs that were needed on this property, but you see, there it was when it was purchased. There it was when it was sold. This is July 8th, 2022, sold on November 1st, 2023. So a while ago, but still relevant information. And now we're starting to see consistent data. Flip investor was willing to pay $23,000 and sold this for $115,000. Who bought this property? A different investor. This is Green Street Investments. All right. Well, we got $105,000 here on St. Norbert Drive. This is a 4-bed, 1-bath, and this is 1,000 square feet. So similar square footage to the second one, extra bedrooms, and less bathrooms. Okay. Again, just information to keep in mind. Scrolling all the way down, you see this one was bought June 20th, 24, and then just sold 15 days ago, August 13th, 2024. So this is fresh data, right? Scroll down. This flip investor paid $40,000 for the property and then sold it for $105,000. Now, what I will say is I don't see very significant differences here between the two. Now, I will say there's a dumpster sitting here. So again, in our minds, building a bridge, they did some work to it. Looks like they did some landscaping here in the front. Looks like they had some mulch, probably added made a little flower bed. So maybe not significant. I also see a little something on a window here. That could be they posted a permit. Could also be a sticker for a window. Well, regardless, windows actually don't look that different. So that's probably more of a permit or something like that. Regardless, probably not a full-blown like gut job flip, but some work was done. This investor paid $40,000. Okay. So we can click out of here. Let's go look at these other two properties that have sold for less. Okay. So 50,000. This investor came in. Again, pretty similar. This reeks of another wholesale. Bought it for 21,000, sold it for 50. Feels like a wholesale. Okay. Let's go to 53,000. This doesn't even really look fixed up. Scroll all the way down. Now check this out. We've got before of the kitchen, after of the kitchen. Almost identical picture. The thing I noticed here is there were some gaps in the flooring right here. I don't see the gaps anymore. Probably a wholesale. What did they buy this for? 39,000, sold for 53. Now that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense at all, especially with the hold time. I'm wondering if this was bought to be a flip and then they gave up and they just cut their losses. Maybe they got overwhelmed. They were never able to get to it and they just sold it on the market for as much as they could. Regardless, what have we learned here between the two systems? Investor Lift, by looking at the number one buyer in Cahokia, Illinois, we found out that guy, he's okay with doing wholesales in Cahokia as long as he can get it for around 20 and then turn around and sell it for 40 as a wholesale. Then diving into the area, we saw multiple investors willing to buy properties again in the range of $20,000 to $23,000. And we also found two flippers that were willing to pay up to $40,000. Okay. Now, of course, the first person that we're going to call there is the investor that's willing to pay the $40,000. So we'll reverse engineer, find their contact information, and we're going to call those buyers and we're going to try to build a relationship and sell them a deal, probably just south of $40,000, and say, hey, we know you just did a deal. You sold it for 105. You bought it for 40. You're willing to come in and buy this one for 37,000, and you can turn around and sell it for 105,000. The intention and the hope is they say, of course, that was a banger of a deal, and I'm looking to do it again. If not, then we defer down to the buyers that were willing to pay $20,000 to $23,000. And we get all of them on our buyers list. So moving forward, as we email them out deals, we text them deals, they know who we are, and we continually feed them, and we become a resource for them. This is the benefit that wholesalers bring to these types of investors. Okay. Now, when you're doing acquisitions, again, we're using this twofold. You're using it for dispositions, but also on the acquisition side. That lead comes in, Cahokia, Illinois. You don't know a lot about Cahokia, Illinois. You could drop into Privy, see where your end buyers are buying. You also see where the flips are being sold, what price point. We could clearly see wholesales 40 to 50,000, flips 105 to 115. Cash buyers are willing to pay us 20 to 23 on the wholesales and 23 to 40 on the flips. What does that mean for acquisitions? You now know the price that you need to get below, and then that's your spread. So how do you find the best cash buyers? Reverse engineer it. Go out there, utilize the tools that are available to us today. Privy is a great tool for both comping and finding cash buyers. And Investor Lift obviously is the ultimate dispositions tool because it gives you the contact information for these buyers, the ability to email them, the ability to text them, and also the ability to go in and see every single property that they've ever done. And now you can sit there and you can reverse engineer and see, hey, we see where you had great deals and you made a significant amount of profit. Now when you have that conversation with that buyer, you can truly build a relationship with them and see, like, are you wanting to buy any more in Cahokia? I see that you've done 200 something properties. You've only done 2 in Cahokia. Was that just a one-off scenario? Was it part of a portfolio that you bought? You're building a relationship with that end buyer. I'm going to go back to Investor Lift because this is a good example when I was doing my research for this video, actually, I'm going to take this down just so we don't show any contact information before we get here. But the second buyer on the buyer's list for Cahokia, I clicked on it and I went to his flip history just to see what it looks like. So I've got that pulled up now. I want to show you guys something. This is interesting, okay? Cahokia, Illinois, 13 properties for the second buyer on here. And if you were to just be focused on what you're doing, you're just going to zoom in to Cahokia to try to figure out what is this property right here, right? All right, so he bought 23 Westwood Drive at Cahokia, and he bought it for $21,000. Again, building that bridge for this is where investors are willing to buy properties. Now, he only sold it for $25,000. I don't understand why that took place. But the thing that stood out to me the most is even though inside of InvestorLift, this buyer was under Cahokia, Illinois, there's an 11 over here over by Fresno. So when you zoom in, what you find out is yeah, he's bought a property in Cahokia, but this is a great investor in Fresno, California. Here's where this guy buys properties. So you start looking in here and it's like, oh, he bought this for $200,000 and sold for $372, right? Bought this one for $88, sold it for $170. Bought this one for $180, sold for $280. This is a true flipper in Fresno, California. So even during your research, what you can see here is hey, call him about Cahokia, see if he's interested in buying more there. The answer is probably going to be, no, I'm really just a flipper out in Fresno, California. Oh, okay. You look at how many deals are you looking to pick up? What's your buy box? I see here you bought one for $180, you sold it for $280. Are you looking for wholesales, just looking for light rehabs? What is it? This is the power of where we are in wholesaling in 2024. Because with this information, what you can do now is you can say, build a relationship. If you like how the guy's talking, if the guy is saying, hey, I'm looking to pick up 2 to 3 more properties in the next month, this is where you could go to like the Speed Lead Marketplace. You could go to a PPL provider like Property Leads or Lead Zolo and say, hey, fire up a campaign in Fresno, California for me. See if you can get a couple under contract, turn around and immediately dispo them. And because you were doing a deal in Cahokia, Illinois, it opened up an opportunity for you now to build a relationship with a buyer in Fresno, California, and you could do a deal all the way on the other side of the United States. This is how we do our business. This is how you should be looking and utilizing tools like Privy and InvestorLift inside of your business. If you like today's content, give me a like, give me a comment. Let me know if it helps you in your business. I hope it did, because this video came straight from you guys' recommendation. You asked for it. You said, how do I know where my end buyers are buying? How do I find the best cash buyers? This is how we're doing it here at Titanium. I appreciate you guys. We'll see y'all tomorrow.